Why did you defect to Reform, please?
So I've moved party because I've concluded that the best chance for my politics, which is the centre-right, and for the country is Reform. The system we have, first past the post, means that there's only really one challenger from each side. And I regret to say, having been a member and an employee and an MP for the Conservative Party for many years, my whole adult life in one way or another, I have concluded that the long story of the Conservative Party as the principal opposition to Labour, I'm not suggesting that they're going to disappear altogether, but I think the time for the Conservatives as that principal opposition, that main challenger from the right, has finished. Whereas you have in the Reform Party this new challenger that represents the politics I think we need, that I think the country requires, and that people of my persuasion, people who believe in family, community, country, the three words of the Reform slogan, we now have in Nigel Farage's party the opposition that we need to Labour. So it's not just a rejection of the Conservatives, which I deeply regret making on a personal level. It's an active, positive choice to join the Reform Party because I think they represent the change we need. You know, there are increasingly people are changing parties in modern politics. I mean, it's happened historically, but we're seeing quite a lot of it now. And I expect there will be other MPs who move from the Conservatives to Reform. I mean, that's assuming that Nigel Farage actually invites them to do so. It's not obviously will, but there are certainly MPs who would like to make that move.
So in your letter, you mentioned the impact of immigration on communities and how it's adversely impacting those communities. East Wiltshire doesn't really have, well, you tell me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't appear to have a major issue with mass immigration. I think there are just over 150 asylum seekers who are in Wiltshire at the moment, non-living in hotels. Is that really an issue for people of East Wiltshire, do you think?
Well, so everybody in Wiltshire is paying for the consequences of uncontrolled mass migration into our country, even if not many people have come to actually live in Wiltshire. Nevertheless, cost of housing, the cost of the waits for public services, the tax bill, the welfare bill, these things are all the consequence of uncontrolled migration.
Who do you believe is to blame for that? You'll be aware that Nigel Farage has blamed Boris Johnson. He calls it a Boris wave. He's been speaking on a Telegraph podcast just this week saying, it's not my fault. You've called Boris Johnson a hero in your past. I mean, who do you think's to blame, and do you think Boris should take accountability for this?
So we've had an experiment in mass migration for the last 25 years since Tony Blair introduced free movement from the European Union. The great achievement of Brexit, and why I believe Boris Johnson is a hero, is that we did take back control over our borders, our laws, our money, and I think that was a tremendous achievement for which we should always be grateful to Boris. The problem is, having taken back control of our borders, he then essentially threw them open to the rest of the world, and so we have restricted European migration while inviting migration from elsewhere. And I'm afraid, yes, he does have to take responsibility as the leader of the government that did that for what we call the Boris wave. And we have millions of people who have come to this country and who are now en route to have essentially permanent rights of settlement here through indefinite leave to remain. And it's that scheme that we in the Reform Party are determined to scrap, not just for the future, but for the people who are currently here with ILR status, because those are the people who came in thanks to Boris.
Great. And just one question, please, on your Christian faith, which is part of yourself. How do you see you bringing that to Reform, and will you see policies based on that?
Well, I think it's important to stress that it's not appropriate for any politician or political party to try and promote their faith to others. In fact, the glory of our Christian heritage is that we have freedom of conscience in this country. We have all different faiths, and of course many people have no faith at all. And I am very relaxed about that. Nevertheless, I do think the foundations of our institutions, Parliament itself, the common law, and all our rights and freedoms ultimately derive from the Christian basis of our constitution and our culture. And it's a shame that we've lost that. And it's a great shame that many people seem to see Christianity as somehow the enemy of freedom and human rights and liberty of conscience, when actually it's the root of those things. So I know that Nigel Farage is very, very comfortable with our Christian heritage as a country, and I am confident that the policies we will be introducing will be really compatible with my faith. But I think they are compatible with everybody's faith, as long as their faith is one that is itself compatible with the history and the values of our country.